I want to welcome everybody to our next episode of Lighthouse Ventures podcast, where today and always we're trying to give people nuggets to how they can grow another stream of income using and leveraging real estate as a vehicle. And today I'm super excited to have my partner in 4 different assets. We are doing some multifamily properties together, and I'm lucky and thrilled to have Chris Freeman on today. He is an unusual individual in that most people, when they get into real estate, they jump out of whatever they're doing and go all in. And Chris, he is playing all in, but he's also doing it while being a father, a Boy Scout leader, as well as managing and leading others in a tech job that is very, very demanding. And you've been doing that for what, 26 years now, Chris?
I guess 27 now.
27 years. That's amazing. I mean, a lot of people would say, okay, Chris, you've been in real estate for 20 years. And correct me if I have any details wrong, but you've been in real estate 20 years. You've created a nice passive income to where you really could quit your job now and jump over and just do real estate 100% of the time and never miss a beat in your income. So people are probably wondering, if you have had that much success, why don't you go ahead and jump?
Yeah, it's a good question. Over the years of doing some real estate investments, I've learned some things that I like to do, some things I don't like to do. And while I love real estate, I don't necessarily want that as my full-time profession. I like the balance. I like right now as a tech sales leader, I love I love the technology side of the business, and I love the innovation, the challenge, the change, and I love the sales aspect of it. It's always changing, and it's always forcing me to innovate personally. And then I find it's sort of a circle, because I find that then comes back around to I'm able to apply some innovative things that I'm learning in my sales and technical role back to the real estate, which, by the way, is a business that moves pretty darn slow. And I just feel that I actually can apply more skills to my real estate by keeping my head into my W-2 role than I could be going in full time.
Wow, I love that. I know a lot of people that actually love their job, and they're not looking for a way out, but they're looking to build a sizable retirement account for themselves and their families. And it sounds like you're doing an amazing job and navigating both very well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So with that, a lot of people are probably wondering, okay, you've been in it 20 years, Chris, but how did you A, get introduced to real estate, and B, if you were just starting out, I mean, tell us, did you start out like most people and you buy a single family home and turn it into a rental, or did you flip? I mean, what did you do?
Yeah, it's a good question. So initially, I think early on, I identified that I wanted to get into real estate, but I didn't really know how. And so I had a single family home that I was living in. I moved out and I bought a duplex. And I remember looking at this duplex. I had met my future partner for a number of doors here in Oregon. And he was my future father-in-law as well, or my father-in-law now. And I remember looking at this duplex and I was asking him, what do you think about it? And, I was on the fence. I was so scared, so nervous. And I remember him telling me, hey, if you don't just buy this, I'm going to buy it. So I went ahead, bought the duplex, moved into half of it, rented out the other half. And I did that at a time in my life when a lot of my friends were now, we all had girlfriends or fiancés, and they were all moving to their next bigger home, maybe moving in with their fiance. And here I was leaving my first home and moving into like a 1950s brick duplex, kind of rough. And it sort of felt like I was downsizing. And I was embarrassed. I remember my friends back then, you got all your friends to help you move. And I got all my friends to help me. And we pulled up and I just kind of felt a little bit embarrassed. But I quickly got over that after about, first 6 months. And I realized, wow, I'm barely paying any rent right now. And then from there, my eyes were opened and just continued to add to the portfolio. So never really did the single family home, started with a duplex and went to a fourplex and on to 15 units, 20 unit buildings.
Wow. That is some great advice. And I hope all of our 20-year-olds that are listening to this heard that loud and clear. I know my son is somebody that's staying at home now, and he said that all of his buddies that have jobs now, they're all starting to feel the crunch of that rent payment every single month. And it hurts. And so I'm continuing to encourage my son to, it's not very great to tell you all your friends that you're living at home with mom and dad, but he will be thankful later when he has a nice stockpile of cash and he gets to go buy a duplex like you've done.
Oh,
And it is going to feel a little out of place and out of the norm as all his peers continue to grow up into new houses and better living conditions, but it'll be well worth it because look at you now, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and a big eye opener for me was, so my future partner, he had been buying apartment complexes, in Portland, we don't have as many large 100+ unit complexes, but he was buying 15 unit, 20 unit type buildings. And, his entire career, he was working at, for the most part, working at Equifax. He was a credit investigator. And he started off, it was one of those jobs where you go to the office in the morning and they would give you your investigations or companies that you had to call on for the day. And if it took you all day, great. If you're able to get it done by noon, great. He would go in, bust his butt, get it done by noon. And then he was out there working on his rentals and his apartments. And by the way, also doing it on the weekend. So as all of his friends were out playing golf on the weekends and off goofing off, he continued to just kind of grind away and work on that. Well, fast forward, I remember when we went into the .com bubble in 2001, I guess, a lot of his friends were all starting to retract in their spending, not going on their international trips, not going to bowl football games, not eating out as much because they're all at this point retired and more or less on fixed income. For him, he'd owned these buildings for like 50 years. And so a lot of them he just owned outright. And so he's making, really nice multiple six-figure income, and he's not missing a beat and hadn't changed his lifestyle one bit. So that was right about the time I bought my duplex. I also saw that happening for him. At the same time, I was losing all of my 401k and all of my investments during that crash. That really just opened my eyes up to the power of real estate. And, I learned that it's a long time. It's a long game process. It's not a get rich quick, but I watched, the work he put in and that balance of kind of having that W-2 to build it up over time, really set him up for retirement. And even more importantly, he was still continuing to work part-time in retirement, keeping his brain sharp, keeping active, while, a lot of his friends were just living off of their fixed income.
Mm. I love that you had a role model. I can tell you from myself, I never knew anyone in real estate. I wasn't even introduced to real estate until my late 40s.
Wow.
And I think, man, how sad is that? And I love the fact that when you can be a role model for somebody, and that was the purpose really of this podcast. It really wasn't something I wanted to do, but I realized there's a lot of people out there that won't have role models around them and not get to witness what you did and how powerful and what a life-changing event for you and your family, that now you get to live a life that you probably never realized was a potential for you until you witnessed that, right?
Oh, yeah. And that's the power of social media now and podcasts and video. As back then, it was maybe you stumbled across a seminar that was in town, or you knew somebody. But now the opportunity, even if you don't have that direct person in your life, the ability to get exposed to those people, it's just so much easier. And you just have to take a little bit of effort to build that relationship and find somebody that you can connect to on an individual level. But there are so many people out there that are willing to help and provide guidance and mentorship. You just have to put yourself out there and make it known.
Yeah. It goes back to our circle of friends, right? Who are you surrounding yourself? And I love the quote, make your mentors your peers. And, you start plugging into these podcasts and pretty soon you feel like they're your best friends. They don't know you from Adam, right? But you feel like you know them so intimately, and that And one day it's really fun when they do become your peers and you know them and you can share with them, hey, you were such a guidepost for me in my life and my journey. And I think that's kind of what we're all looking for. But thank you for sharing that. You're right. Social media has really helped open the door. I heard somebody say that by 2030, 30% to 40% of all Americans will own real estate and be building wealth through real estate. I don't know where we're at today on that, but I think, wow, what a fascinating statistics. And I'm sure it is from social media, getting the word out that, you can build another stream of income through real estate. So you have this high-tech freedom, learn, earn, and invest. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So as I made the jump from smaller assets into syndication, working with you on some of these assets, and we started to raise some capital, I was noticing that more and more of my investors were coming from my network of tech sales professionals. I mean, it makes sense. I've been working for 27 years. If you looked at LinkedIn, I would say that 80% of my connections are tech salespeople. Then there's a smattering of customers, and then there's a bunch of real estate people. And so most of them were tech salespeople. And so I thought about, in the capital raising space, how can I provide value in a way that maybe is unique, it's differentiated, or focused on the people that I'm most closest aligned with. And so, I was my original brand, Pacific Pine Property. Yeah, it's generic, right? I mean, I'm like one of many people out there trying to do things in real estate. And so I wanted to create a new brand that was just focused on that high tech sales professional. And that's where the high tech freedom came about. So in aligned with that, I created a podcast. And so this all launched in January. I created a podcast called High Tech Freedom. And the podcast isn't really about real estate. It's really a podcast for tech sales professionals, where I bring on really other successful tech sales professionals, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, authors, and so on, to share best practices and insight. And there is this concept of, you first need to learn from the best, which is why we all listen to podcasts and read books to be able to earn. But then once you earn it, how do you take moves to create that additional income stream, to create that freedom that we're all looking for? Because especially in any really challenging job, or take a tech sales job as an example. Yeah, it is pretty cool, but we're not necessarily just doing it because we absolutely love it. Part of it is the income potential is really significant if you perform. And we're taking that risk, we're taking on that extra workload, maybe that stress, because there is that other thing that we're shooting for, that freedom. And so it's one thing to earn it, but then you've got to get that money working for you. And so I'm oftentimes talking to guests about, hey, you work so hard, you've made a big commission check, what do you do with it? And oftentimes people do talk about real estate or other investments that they've made. And so it's an opportunity for us to chit chat a little bit about, our journey in real estate. And I do use it as a top of the funnel for my capital raising efforts around real estate.
Oh, I love that you're doing that. That's what a great way to introduce them to real estate too, if they haven't been exposed to it. And yeah, invest in one of our deals, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, and that's the other thing is, like somebody who's getting into real estate and they're starting to get a little bit more active, and maybe you want to go raise some capital. When you're in it, you feel like, a lot of it, it all makes sense, right? You've been doing it, you're working it, you're familiar, you start throwing out all these terms that you just get used to saying. Well, you have to remember that a lot of your investors out there, they're not nearly as deep. And so they need some education. And so that's one of the things that I just recently launched was just an educational webinar that then we've recorded it and people can go back and watch it. But just to give an opportunity for the people in my own network to, even before they get on a call, they can go watch the webinar, get a little bit more educated, and maybe feel a little bit more comfortable about even setting up a call with me. Because oftentimes, while they might be interested, they don't even know what to ask. And so then because of that, they never take action. So I think the education piece, if you're looking to raise capital or you're an operator, how are you enabling and educating those people that might want to join you passively in one of your deals?
Yeah, no, that's beautiful because as you and I both know, not everybody underwrites properties the same. And when I use the term underwriting, I mean run their numbers to make sure that your investors and you make a profit in the deal. So that's important. What a great video and resource for people to see. So thank you. So speaking of, how can other people connect with you more to learn more about this resource that you've recorded?
Yeah, so I'm pretty easy to find on LinkedIn. It's just Chris Freeman. So if you search me, you can put in the whole LinkedIn URL, and I'm just Chris Freeman. And if you search High Tech Freedom, that's another quick way to find me.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Last but not least, you don't have any immediate plans to quit. I know that you've changed jobs recently, and that's going really great, and you're having a lot of fun and loving the people you're working with. How much longer do you plan to work in high tech? And kind of what's your goals for the next 20 years? And I know that's long,
Yeah.
but give us kind of a vision of where you see yourself going.
Yeah, it's interesting. So my oldest son just graduated from high school, so he's heading off to University of Oregon. My daughter will be a junior. So getting them through that college process is sort of the next hurdle. And I really envision a time where if they don't move back to Portland, which, it's highly probable, my daughter's dead set on like somewhere where there's sun. I want to have that opportunity to just go work remote. If they're going to be in some other state, I can go hunker down with my wife for, 2-3 months, get a short-term rental, go to the little Johnny soccer games, and just have a little bit of flexibility there. And, that maybe the W-2 job isn't as conducive to that as the real estate piece. The other piece that, I've really, I was a scoutmaster and really active in my son's Boy Scout troop for a number of years. And that really opened my eyes to giving back and the power of that. So, I'm looking at, how do I maybe shift some of because I have a hard time sitting still. So how do I shift some of that energy at some point from the W-2 to, giving back and more service work and, both with time and money. Don't really know what that looks like. I've got some ideas that I'm working through right now, but I think that'll be a big part of what keeps me busy down the road.
Yeah, that's great. I think we all are looking for that time freedom that you just mentioned and being able to work remotely or just pick up and move somewhere for 3 months. I mean, and I know that that's kind of in our dreams as well, and hope that we both get to achieve it. In fact, it's not hope, it will
Yeah.
happen for both of us, right? But thank you for sharing that vision, because I think a lot of times we don't know how to dream because we've never been exposed to what is possible. So it's so fascinating for you to share what you're visualizing for your future. And thank you for being vulnerable and putting that out there for the rest of us. And I'm confident you're going to achieve it. So,
Oh, well, thank you.
yeah. Well, thank you for being a guest here today. Obviously, I'm going to have you back on a little later and we'll check back in with you. But thank you for adding so much value to our guests. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you would like to leave with our audience?
No, I would say that whatever you decide to do, if it's jumping into real estate or doing it part-time, just make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. If you want to leave your W-2 because you feel like real estate is the way to go, well, just make sure you're not running from your W-2 to real estate because you're starting off with a poor foundation of success. If you are excited and you see a path and you're willing to go work as hard as you ever have worked, well, then great, go for it. But just make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. And I want to thank you. I love what you're doing. Everybody tune into Jennifer's podcast and keep up the great work. I love the value that you're providing.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Thank you so much for the advice. That is so perfectly put. There's a saying, everywhere you go, the one common denominator is you.
Yeah.
And so if you're having problems somewhere, maybe you fix them there first before you move on.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So with that, thank you so much. Blessings to you and your family as you continue to grow. And I hope that I continue to be a part of your growth.